In this lesson, we're going to go over strategies for checking permissions and making sure that the interface works as expected for your different types of users. There are two ways to check your permissions. One is to have another browser open and log into the other browser as a user with the roles that you want to test. So in this case, I'm in Chrome right now, logged in as an administrator, and I can move over to Safari. Here, I can log in as the recipe contributor. Now I can go through the process of testing this particular user role by making sure that the tools I need are actually here. The only thing that this particular user role is able to do is add a recipe or manage existing recipes that I created. So I'm going to go to Add Content and see if I can create a recipe. And it looks like I can. And then I'll go ahead and save this recipe. The other thing that I can do here is I can edit this recipe. So I have the Edit tab available here, and I can go ahead and click on that. I'll scroll down here. I can't delete the recipe. All I can do is edit it and save it. And then I can go ahead and add another recipe if I would like. So it looks like this behaves the way that I expected it to for the recipe contributor. And I just tested this out and made sure that it's all good. This can be a pretty arduous way to test all of your user roles and the permissions that you have set up for each user role, because it means logging in and logging out, logging in again and logging out again, especially if you have multiple user roles. A much easier way to do this is with a module called Masquerade. Masquerade is a contributed module that allows you to temporarily pretend to be another user while still logged into the site as yourself. Let's take a look at how this works. First, we need to get the Masquerade module from Drupal.org because it's not actually in our site yet. You'll notice that when I want to quickly get to a module page, I type in drupal.org/project/the module name, and that will take me to the module page itself. This pattern is always followed by project pages on the Drupal.org site. The only trick is knowing what the actual module name is, because sometimes it's not always obvious. We're on the Masquerade project page here, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and find the Drupal 8 module download and download that. Now we'll go to our Finder and add the module to our modules directory in our Drupal root directory. If we go back to our site under Extend, we'll now be able to find that module and enable it. I'll just double check the requirements and make sure that I have what I need, and it looks like I do. And then I'll go ahead and enable this module. Now remember that I'm a site administrator. This means that any new module that I enable, I will have permission to use. If I weren't a site administrator, I would then need to go and check the permissions to make sure that I could make use of the Masquerade module. The Masquerade module has a nice little block that I can place on my site, and I can use this block to quickly masquerade as another user. So I'm going to go to Block Layout here and find that block. It's under the Forms menu, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to my regions. Specifically, I'm going to add it to the first sidebar. I'm also going to restrict this block to the administrator user role, because only the administrator user role should be able to masquerade as other users. This is also set on the permissions page, but I don't want anyone except for the administrator to even see that this functionality exists. And then I'll go ahead and click the big blue button to save this block. The block has now been placed into the sidebar first region, and I need to save the block configuration. Now if we go back to the site, we'll see that we have this block here called Masquerade with a little field that allows me to find a user and then switch what user I'm using to look at the site. So I'm going to switch over to looking at the site as the Rain Recipe user. Notice that when I started to type, it gave me recommendations. So I don't need to know the actual username. I just need to know enough to get the right recommendations. So now I'm looking at the site as if I were Rain Recipe, that particular user. This is very handy and allows me to test the functionality without having two browsers open or logging in and logging out. I can just very quickly masquerade as another user and check something. When I'm done, up at the very top on the right is the Unmasquerade link. This will switch me back to viewing the site as my user. If you haven't tested before your users start entering content, you'll find out that something wasn't set properly in your permissions when a user comes to you unhappy because they aren't able to do something that they should be able to do.